the Brad Hankins is the campaign director for Scouts for Equality, and he said they are not going to be satisfied by only a partial acceptance of homosexual scouts and leaders. So what's ultimately, I mean, what are they looking for here?
Destroy is what Kirby said. I think that's right. I mean, they want to destroy the scouts as
the other thing I would point people to, if they're interested in this, is our good friend Kelly Shackelford at Liberty Institute and Matt Staver at Liberty Council, and then an individual at ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, have put together an open letter, which is available on any of those websites, including Point of View's website and others. But anyway, the point is they also have warned that once you go this way and you don't now have a national policy, it would make it much easier, first of all, for the gay activists to pick off one charter at a time, and second of all, they wouldn't have the, if you will, the cover that comes from the Supreme Court decision that said a number of years ago that the Scouts, being a private organization, can determine who would be a Scout leader and whether or not they would allow Scout leaders that are atheists or homosexuals. That all changes with this policy, and so I think there's some other very serious consequences to this decision, which is why I'm much more hopeful than I was that now when the entire scouting community gets a chance to weigh in on this, I think this, hopefully, this idea of changing the policy will die a natural death, but we'll see.
I'm hoping.
Well, I tell you what, too, I'd be worried about my job if I was an executive there in Dallas working for Boy Scouts of America, because after all this is said and done, you got a lot of angry Boy Scouts and people who are involved in scouting, and they're looking at these guys in Dallas saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, well, the rally yesterday, if they were looking out the window at the rally there, Jonathan Sainz and all the other people that were part of that, and CBS was there and doing interviews with Kelly Shackelford and all sorts of things, and they're just looking out the window, they're going, this was not a good idea. The goodwill that Scouts have built up over the years just kind of got squandered here on this proposed policy. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, let's change topics here, talk about immigration and illegal immigration. Kirby, what kind of laws do we currently have dealing with immigration into the USA?
Sure. Let me give you a couple of key dates here. In 1986, there was a promise made to Ronald Reagan, then president, that by closing the border, we would then provide amnesty for those individuals who were there at the time. It seemed like a good bargain. It did not work out very well because the border never really got closed, and we have at least 12 million illegal aliens who've come in since that time. You keep hearing the figure 11 million, 12 million. I don't think it's that low. I think it's much higher, but we'll just use the numbers everybody's using. So fast forward then to 2007, and this was an attempt, again, to come up with some kind of plan that, again, would be contingent on our success in securing the border. It required a number of things. That is that we would continue to build the wall along the border between the southern states, primarily Arizona and Texas, but also, of course, New Mexico and California. But a lot of the transfer points tend to happen either in Texas or Arizona. And that was not done. As a matter of fact, if you want to get some numbers, and people can write some of these down just so I have some facts and figures, of the entire building project, probably only 18% of the border has a wall, and only 1/10 of that 18% actually has the double wall demand of the 2007 amnesty. So now fast forward to where we are today. We have the Gang of Eight proposal, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, suggesting that we once again need to sort of climb up that hill, come up with a way in which once we have guaranteed that we have a secure border, that then we would provide a pathway to citizenship for individuals who are already here. And there is probably a very quick but hopefully somewhat accurate look of the various proposals that either have been enacted or are now being proposed before Congress.
All right, let's establish something here that's lost in the talk about this issue often, and it needs to be stated. The people that are here into our USA who are not here legally broke into the country. They're here illegally. They knew what they were doing. They hired somebody to bring them across the border, and they've been hiding from the authorities in the sense that they don't want to be sent back to Mexico or wherever they're from. So that's rarely mentioned in the way that I just said it, because, we want to soften the issue because we don't want to seem harsh on people, so we don't say the frank truth about their status. So that's not demeaning those people as human beings, or not saying anything like that. I'm just saying, let's first say the truth about this matter, and that is that these folks we're talking about have come into America illegally, intentionally. Kirby, you got anything to add to that?
I would add just a couple points. Number one, it turns out, and again, a number of numbers you might want to put down on your piece of paper here, about 40% of the people that I just mentioned that are here illegally actually came here legally but overstayed their visa. So we've got a couple of problems. And first of all, along the way, I'm going to probably sound very negative of Marco Rubio, but I have high respect for him. I've interviewed him before, and I really think that some of the things he's put forward with the Gang of Eight are really good, but I don't want to do it in a comprehensive way, because he's pointed out that we've got some problems. First of all, we have to secure the border. He agrees with that. Second of all,
so
we
it's
have
not
to solve
secure.
our legal immigration problem.
It's not secure now.
It's not secure now.
Okay, I just want to establish that fact too. Okay.
Sure. And that also he says that we have a problem with our legal immigration side. We have 4.5 million people around the world that are on a waiting list to come to this country that would like to get a green card. And of course, if we grant amnesty for the people that are here, we essentially jump them in front of the line of those people who've been trying to go through the legal immigration system, coming here from Canada, coming here from Germany, coming here from Australia, wherever they might be coming. And they're waiting and are not in the country because they didn't break the law, but in a sense, we have to think about those people too, some of whom have been waiting 20 years because the legal immigration system is broken. So those are just a few other facts you might want to put on the table as we talk about this issue.
So could you conceivably have somebody who's here illegally getting to be a citizen sooner than one of those people waiting in line legally?
Quite possibly. Now, one of the other facts I'll put on the table, which nobody talks about, is it turns out that oftentimes when we do grant, quote, amnesty, they don't become citizens. If you look at the 1986 amnesty under Ronald Reagan, only 41% of those people got legal status under the program, who got legal status under the program, went on to become citizens. So they just sort of hang around. They never really fully become citizens, but they were granted amnesty so they can't be deported. So we've got some real problems, if you will, just on the legal immigration side of this ledger before we even talk about the illegal immigration side. Okay. And as we open up the phones, I'm sure we're going to hear from people saying, I was, or my friend was, or my neighbor was trying for years and years and years and years, try to go through the legal hurdles in order to become a citizen. And it's a cumbersome bureaucratic system that I think needs to be overhauled. And again, I give high marks for Marco Rubio to pointing out that we need to solve the legal immigration system first, and we also need to secure the border first before we talk about all the other things that his Democratic partners want to talk about.
So this is very interesting. So everybody's acknowledging that. Well, I don't know if President Obama has acknowledged, but everybody's acknowledging that
President Obama, but everybody else might acknowledge.
Acknowledging that the border is not secure as it could be.
Right.
Okay. Well, we all know that, but President Obama and some others act like, sure it is. It's secure. We're doing, no problem.
Well, in Univision, he said the other day, the president said the other day, we've done everything the Republicans ask us to do, which I thought was interesting how he made it partisan. Instead of we've done everything the American people have asked us to do, we've done everything the Republicans have asked us to do. Everything is about us versus the Republicans, even on the issue of immigration. Yeah. It's always kind of a partisan issue.
I did hear a good proposal. I don't know if it's Marco Rubio or the senator from Florida, who it was, but they said, in order to secure these borders along the states that you mentioned with Mexico, we need to have whatever is done be certified, if that's really what you want to say, the way you want to say it, by the governors of those states.
Right.
In other words, the governors of those states, Jan Brewer, Rick Perry, I've forgotten the lady's name who's the governor.
Susanna.
Of New Mexico. Yeah. And Jerry Brown, I guess, from California, would have to sign something
Makes
saying,
sense.
saying that that they in fact agree that the border is secure. Interesting. So that would be helpful if those governors, because Jan Brewer, the governor of Arizona, what she's been into, President Obama's been after her and trying to deny Arizona. They're trying to do something about this issue, and their hands are tied. It has been tied, although the Supreme Court partially agreed with Arizona when they went to court, when President Obama and Eric Holder, Attorney General, took Arizona to court on this matter. Kirby, so we've established the fact that is this our fault in part? America's fault. We're the ones who left the borders open. We're the ones who had jobs for people to come and have that, quote, other Americans wouldn't take. So to any extent, is this our own fault?
Well, and again, I think if you were to go back and look under the Reagan administration, I think Ronald Reagan, if he were still alive, he would say probably the biggest mistake he made was to believe that this 1986 immigration thing would have worked. But, he assumed that people could be trusted. And I guess the example I love to use, remember the Popeye cartoons where you had Wimpy, J. Wellington Wimpy, I'll be glad to pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, and other times he'd say I'm buying, but he's paying. I sort of feel like the president at that time sort of believed in the Wimpy idea. Okay, we'll grant amnesty now, and we promise to close the border, just like we promise to extend the debt ceiling, but someday we're going to cut spending. Every time we turn around and have some promise in the future that we're going to close the border, it hasn't worked out. And so I think that is one of the issues. And frankly, back then, once the economy was really booming in the late 80s, a lot of people didn't mind people coming over. But right now, Tim and John, we've got 23 million Americans out of work. I think that is another statistic that needs to be put on the table if you are going to bring in more and more people into this country who literally will be taking jobs from Americans because they're willing to work for less, they're willing to get paid under the table, they're willing to go into the economy in ways that most Americans would not. So I think there are some other issues that certainly need to be addressed as well that didn't exist back in 1986.
We're going to come back, continue our conversation with Kirby Anderson. I'm Tim Wildman with John Riley. If you want to ask a question, make a comment about the Boy Scouts of America issue or what to do about the immigration and illegal immigration issue, you can call us at 888-589-8840.